Welcome to Psych Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Jessica Rabin, a licensed clinical psychologist. If you are a mental health professional, student in the social science field, or just interested in psychology and mental health, this podcast is for you. Although topics discussed on this podcast are similar to therapy, Psych Talk is not a replacement for therapy and is for educational and entertainment purposes only. So let's dive into today's episode. Hey everyone, welcome back to Psych Talk, and thank you so much for joining me for today's episode. Today I have a very special guest with me, Juliette Blake, who is the founder and CEO of Moxies. So Juliette, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to talk.
I am super excited to talk to you as well, but before we jump into the conversation, do you mind introducing yourself, a little bit about your background, what you do, and anything else you want to share?
So I have been building in this space for a while now, for over 20 years. I started my first company actually as a hobby when I was in high school to help my sister and her friends through middle school. And so I've always been really mission driven with everything that I've done. I took that first company, I grew it to one of the top girls' websites globally. So it was like Teen Vogue, 17, and then like my company, Miss O and Friends. After Procter and Gamble invested in us and then created we were actually one of the first series that was funded by YouTube Originals. We partnered with Disney, created a live action series. And I've always been really interested in how we can leverage media technology to accurately, positively portray girls, what types of positive impacts we can have. And actually with that series that I mentioned, we were really thoughtful and intentional with the way we created it. Everyone from the advisors that we worked with before we sat down to write it to how can we squash gender stereotypes and showcase girls in non-traditional roles and focus on entrepreneurship and positive female friendships and girls working together. And we also were really focusing on STEM and computer science in that series. And we had this external study done that showed girls who watched just the first episode, so that was only 22 minutes of content, were 11% more likely to pursue a career in computer science than girls who didn't. And
Wow.
I think it really speaks to the why behind now what I'm doing with Moxies is I have truly seen firsthand, and we can build with real thought and intention, and try to drive towards these positive outcomes. We can do it, especially when it comes to girls. I am also a mom. I have 3 kids, 2 of them are girls, and I really am constantly thinking about their futures, the role that technology plays in it, the role that digital plays in it, and very much with Moxies, what really drives me is how can I create a better world for my children and their generation? And it is not the world of tech that we are so familiar with right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And obviously, you mentioned Moxies. I mentioned that when I was introducing you. So, you
Yeah.
founded Moxies, which is a platform designed specifically for girls ages 8 to 12 that focuses on well being and healthy digital habits, which, like you just alluded to, is not necessarily the tech world we live in. So, can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit more about this platform, the
Yeah.
inspiration behind it, and anything else you want to share about it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think we are so we are so familiar with big tech, right? And we're
Hmm.
so familiar with the harmful, dangerous, and addictive behavior patterns that we know as adults can be really harmful for us,
Hmm.
right? And how we're addicted to our phones, we're addicted to Instagram, whatever, name your app, name your poison type of thing. And it really kind of goes back to the fact that that's how they monetize. So it's this
Yeah.
attention economy, and that is how big tech is mostly monetizing. And in order to get people to come back, they have to have something that is going to get them to come back. With Moxie's, well-being is actually our North Star metric. So it's not how much time they're spending, how many times they're coming back. And what we've really created is an app for 8 to 12-year-old girls. We have some younger girls, we have some older girls. But the idea is how can we really reimagine digital,
Mhm.
moving away from this attention economy. And we as parents really understand that what has been considered free for so many years is not. It's the highest cost, which is our children's mental health and well-being. And so how can we at Moxies create a really fun and joyful experience for girls where they can play and they can create and they can connect with their friends and do all of those things that they're wanting to do. And from a
Mhm.
developmental perspective, in some cases is actually super important that they're able to connect with their peers and like figure out like how to talk to people, and like they need, like, technology is part of our lives too at the same time. But like, how can we give them this autonomy but with safeguards? How can we provide also parents peace of mind? How can we drive towards building confidence and mood and self-regulations and healthy digital habits from the very beginning? So that's basically what we're doing at Moxies.
I love that so much. And obviously, as a psychologist, and we'll jump into this a little more later,
Yeah,
the fact that your focus is really on well being rather than the attention economy and, yeah, algorithms. I mean, like you said, adults too. I find myself like just grabbing my phone to just check. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm checking social media for. Like,
totally. It's
nothing
like,
really has
yeah,
happened in 4 minutes.
totally. And it's like, and those are the things. It's like we as adults recognize that. And it's like we have fully formed brains and we're still
Mhm,
like, oh my God, like I'll pick up like I've even started when I get home from work and I like I'm with my kids before bedtime and like all of those things. Like my phone is such a distraction and I know
mhm,
that. Like whether I'm checking social media, text, email, like whatever it might be. And so I now put my phone, like I hang it up, like it's almost like a landline. Because to your point, they'll like being able to do like the drive by and just like tap it and be like,
mhm.
like it's like, what am I even doing? Like, no, nothing has changed in the last 2 minutes since I did that last drive by. Like, it's the same.
Oh, I know. The amount of times I'll tap my phone, and I can't believe I'm about to admit this, but sometimes I find myself, like, if there's something near my phone too, I,
Yeah.
like, tap
Tap.
it
Oh
like
my
I
God, I
would
do
be
that too.
tapping.
I do that too. And I'm like, oh no. Oh no. This
Like,
is like,
I've tapped, like, notes at work, and I'm like, "What am I doing? That's not electronic." Like, I don't need to be, but it is because
I
it's
know.
become habitual for us, and I'm
Totally.
like, "What am I even checking? I don't even know what
Totally.
I'm checking." Um
Totally. Yeah.
So, obviously, one of the big differences between Moxies and other social platforms is the focus on well being rather than just that attention economy, the, you know, addictive feedback loop, for lack of a
Yeah.
better term. How else is Moxies different from other social platforms?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like the biggest differentiator is, so like we've built Moxies with this like safe by design foundation from the very beginning. I hope
Okay.
that this is a term that people will start to hear more of. I think it's something that's just really starting. I'm seeing a lot of other companies that are actually like very like-minded and thinking like this too, which for me is so exciting. Because I'm like, yes, there are more people that are building safe for kids, but it takes it beyond just like safe for kids designation, right? And so
Hmm.
like safe by design, essentially what that means is like there's like high privacy and data protections, like check, right? There's
Yeah.
from a content perspective, it's age appropriate, it's not toxic, it's not like inciting certain like anxiety inducing type of like uh, features.
Hmm.
Um, and then the third part, and this is where like there's definitely like the biggest differentiation, is the actual product design itself that is not feeding into these addictive behavior loops and is actually driving towards well-being instead of time spent. And so that is, I would say, like the biggest differentiator with Moxies is like it's so safe. Like we're looking
Hmm.
ahead at like COSA compliancy, which like may never get passed, but like we built Moxies to be COSA compliant.
Yeah.
We have like from a content perspective, it is developmentally age appropriate. Like we have worked with other psychologists and educators and researchers, and like that is what is informing the content that's on the platform. But then the third part is like the actual structural like product design piece is
Hmm.
like what we are not including in it and what we are putting in by default. And so, like, what we're seeing happen now with a lot of these apps is they're coming out with like an age gate, or they're coming out with like finally putting time limits on, which is insane that that has not been there before.
Yeah.
But like they're putting on all these things and they're retrofitting, right? So, like, there are these
Hmm.
platforms that are built for adults. They know that kids are using them, they know that kids are very highly engaged audiences that are using them. And so now they're trying to like retrofit it. It's like these band aids on bullet holes. And so Moxies is built for kids by default, and it is safe
Yeah.
by default. It's not an afterthought. And so that I would say is like the biggest differentiation. And it
Hmm.
goes everywhere from like, even like it starts at the very beginning to the registration, all the way through like the content itself, as well as the design features within the platform.
Yeah. Wow. Like as a parent, and my daughter's only 5, so she
Yeah.
is not on
Yeah.
social media. Although, like, I'm sure you've seen this with your kids. Kids like pick up on tech.
It happens
So,
so much faster. So like I like what grade is your daughter in?
so she's about to enter kindergarten.
Okay,
So
so like
yeah.
I want to talk to you next year when she enters kindergarten, because I always felt everything that I like my whole career has always been focused on tween girls, right? And so
Hmm.
like for so long I was like really I was close to the demo, or I was building for my
Yeah.
sister. And then I was in this period where I was like, okay, like I'm in my 20s, or now I'm married, or now I have like a newborn,
Hmm.
or whatever it is, but it felt so far away. Even when I launched Moxies, even when I started, I like when we started like building and stuff, my oldest was 4. And
Okay.
so I was like, oh, this is so far away. This is so far away from my own children. And last year, when my oldest entered kindergarten, I was like, oh my God, it's actually not. And
Yeah.
even me, as someone who is like in this world, as like all I do is like learn and research and build, like think about like healthy and safe tech. It was one of those moments like that I was like, oh, whoa, okay, this is actually, we have to think about starting this digital literacy component and modeling and all of these other things that like we can chat about, but like so much earlier. It doesn't start
Hmm.
when they're 8. It doesn't start when they're 13. Like it literally starts when they're 4 and 5. And not that they should be on those like any
Yeah.
platforms. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like it comes up so much faster than I even as a parent realized. So I want to talk to you when your daughter's in kindergarten next year, because it was really like really surprising for me.
Yeah. No, that's what I was about to say. Like, even
Yeah.
though, like, I don't imagine we're gonna let her have social media
Yeah.
anytime soon,
Mhm.
I do think of safety
Yeah.
all the time. Like, I am on social media, like, I
Yeah.
across various platforms.
Yeah.
And, like, even as an adult, I get scared with a lot of the
Totally.
safety
Yeah.
issues. And so, I mean, I can only imagine as a parent of like tweens, because I know that's really what we're focusing on here, like
Yeah.
how scary it is if they're just on Instagram or Snapchat or
Yeah.
TikTok and not knowing the content that they're coming across. And I think of, and I know this was a thing on YouTube, but I'm sure it's a thing on other platforms as well, like content that's disguised as
Oh,
children's content.
yeah.
But then after a couple minutes or
Yeah.
30 seconds, it's not. So the fact that
Mhm.
one, your platform is built for kids, safety measures, I was thinking like from the ground up rather than
Yeah.
retrospectively, like you were
Yeah.
saying, and the content is all age appropriate. Like that is so different
Yes.
than the social media platforms that we have now.
Totally. And like to me, like it shouldn't be so novel.
Hmm.
Like that should not be so novel that like that's how I'm building something. But it is. It is like not the norm. And I think a lot of like the digital literacy that like we do both on the platform that's like built in, as well as any like events and things that we do with either like parents or girls or whatever it might be, is that like education of like so many of these big tech platforms, they're designed to keep you coming back. They're designed to make you tap your phone and it's really a notepad, right? Like that is like what they're like designed to do. And so so much of it like comes down to that, like again, that early education, and really like the ability to set them up for success and like
Hmm.
give them the right tools so they know how to navigate technology and digital, because like whether we like it or not, like it's not going away. And I
Yeah.
think that's like the big thing that like not everyone likes to hear that, but like
Hmm.
it's technology is part of our world and it's part of our lives. And like it will always be part of our children's lives in some capacity. And like
Hmm.
everyone can have different limits. There's no one size fits all. Like I am all for like delaying cell phones and all of those things, but like we need to be able to set our children up to have a healthy relationship with technology and not have it be this forbidden fruit, and actually build those healthy habits early. And at the end of the day, like that's what we're trying to do with Moxies, is like, how can we build healthy habits from their very first experience that they're having on anything digital?
Mm-hmm. I love that so much. And I definitely want to talk more about healthy habits. But I feel like
Yeah.
before we get into that, we need to talk about like the current state of
Yeah. Yeah.
social media and the
Yeah.
impact it has on tween
Yeah.
girls specifically. And so I want you to take this in any direction, but like,
Yeah.
can you talk about the impact that you
Yeah.
have seen social media have on this 8 to 12 year range of girls?
Totally. And I think, like, I will say, like, I don't love coming at it from like a fear mongering perspective,
Hmm.
because I don't think that that is productive. Like, I don't think that's
Yeah.
productive for parents. I think at like the end of the day, like, there's so many stats, there's so many articles, there's so many headlines, and they're true. So it's like you're gonna see a headline that's like, 60% of girls have consistent feelings of hopelessness and sadness. And that's like a CDC study. And you're like, wait, no, 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 that can't be true. It's like, no, 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 that is true.
Yeah.
So, like, what is interesting when it comes to social media and this age group is that girls are consistently disproportionately negatively affected. And I think,
Hmm.
like, that's something that I think is important to note. Again, like, sometimes there's other influences and there's other reasons, like they might be more at risk for certain like vulnerabilities or whatever it might be, but girls are disproportionately negatively affected when it comes to those effects of social media. And so much of it has to do with the developmental milestones that they're hitting at that age versus
Hmm.
boys. And so, like, girls are starting, like, at that age, like, they're dealing with social comparison. Like, that's a
Yeah.
huge one. The social comparison is a huge one. And that peer influence and that peer acceptance, those are all really big parts of what is just naturally happening for them developmentally. Um, and all social media does is heighten those insecurities and heighten those feelings for them. Again, these negative loops, right? That can heighten those feelings for them. On the flip side, like, there can be a lot of benefits for
Hmm.
young people when it comes to social media. Like, there's a ton of connectivity, there's a ton of sense of belonging, like there's a lot of like this like creative expression. But like, the biggest problem is the big tech platforms that we all are very familiar with, everything from social media like Instagram and TikTok to Roblox, like, they
Hmm.
were not designed for children and they were not
Correct.
set up to keep children safe. And
Mhm.
that's everything from what they're exposed to. So, like, again, like stats that like 1 in 3 girls are served eating disorder or self-harm content after 5 minutes of being on Instagram or TikTok. Like, that is insane. And that is a reality, right? And
Mhm.
so it's those types of things that are not they're not doing anything good in that
Yeah.
capacity. And also, like, in the at that time too, it's like girls are there's so much of self-discovery, and
Mhm.
there's so much of like them finding their voice or not having a voice, and like confidence levels in girls drop by
Yeah.
like 40% between the ages of 8 and 14. So there's like all of these things, and again, what we see from a lot of the big tech components, those just heighten it, and they make those feelings feel bigger, and they make them feel worse. And like, the other thing too, and this isn't girl specific, but like, so much with social media specifically is like, it doesn't stop. So like,
Yeah.
if you had a situation with someone in school, like, it doesn't end at that school day, right? It can be
Mhm.
carried on. And like, that's like a big part of all of this. It's just like, it's constant. It's never ending. It's like, even the group chats, the like, it just is never ending. And there's
Mhm.
not like a, okay, I'm done. And that's all part of these addictive behavior loops that keep them coming back. And those are intentional. So like,
Mm.
I think that's the biggest thing. These are all intentional design features to make people come back.
Yeah. That last thing that you were just talking about with it doesn't stop, I was thinking about that when you made your first point about
Yeah.
comparison because,
Yeah.
you know, I remember being in really middle school, maybe
Yeah.
not late elementary, it probably
Yeah.
happened, but like middle school and like comparing myself to other
Yeah.
girls. But then you went home
Yeah.
and I don't know your age. You don't have to tell me your age, but given the context, I'm assuming we're around the same age. And millennials, like
yes,
we were the first on social media, but I didn't have social media till like what was it, MySpace and like Zango till high school.
MySpace. Yeah.
So like middle school, you would have that social comparison, and then you would go home.
Yeah.
And you're not then checking up on your friends' Instagram posts or things like that. You can't continue to compare. Just like you were saying, if you have a problem at school, if you're being bullied or things like that, it doesn't just stay at school anymore. It goes home. And I would imagine that, well, not imagine, it is true. There's more opportunities for that comparison. It's not like it's just left at school. Like, oh, Susie in class looked so pretty today. I wish I looked like her. But then you go home and then you're on Susie's Instagram and looking at her face and Snapchat and TikTok and all of those things. And that's not good for your mental health, self-esteem. And you're just really ruminating on the self-comparison, and it's going to be negative for you.
Totally. And I think like, it doesn't stop. And even similarly with like content, like it's like those, like just like the endless scroll, right? Like it doesn't stop. It's not like you watch a show and it ends and you go to bed. Like, like that's how it was when I was growing up. Like, you had to wait until the next week. Like, right. Like there was no option. Like it ended and it was over. And unless you like taped it on your VHS, like, and had the next episode and were ready to watch, like you were watching it late, like whatever. So, I mean, I think like that's the other thing is from again, the technology that like, and the platforms that we are all using, that I am using, like they don't turn off, they don't stop. And, that is, again, with like young people, they don't have that. They don't have that control. They don't have that self-regulation yet. Like that's not a skill. That's a skill that they're learning, right? That's like an executive functioning skill that like they're learning and they're developing, but they don't have those skills developed. And so like, of course they're going to try and go back. Of course they're going to open it. Of course they're going to be like, oh wait, no, I now have to see what Susie posted this today. Like, because like, they don't have those skills to self-regulate, and us as adults also like are really working on those skills, to be clear. So it's like you put them like I always like to describe, I was like, Moxies is like dropping your daughter off at her best friend's house instead of in the middle of Times Square, right? Like big tech is like such a Times Square moment where you're just like flailing, looking around, figuring it out, like not safe. And those are all like real things. And from a social media, like again, if we're specifically talking about like the social media perspective, like it's never ending. Like it just is heightened.
Oh, absolutely. And when you were just talking about the emotion regulation skills or lack thereof, another thing that came to mind about social media is the heightened emotions that just come with content that is pushed on social media. I mean, you gave the statistic about like eating disorders and self-harm, but we know the content that gets pushed on social media has that like inflammatory hook, or like it elicits some type of big emotion. And not that 8 and 12-year-olds can't have some good coping skills. Like I work with kids that age and some are fabulous at their coping skills, and their brain is not fully developed to really understand like, what am I feeling right now? Oh, this is what triggered this in me. And now maybe I should, separate myself from this. Or you keep bringing up like digital literacy. Like media literacy is not mandated to be taught in the United States. And so kids are thrown into this world of social media. And even if parents are trying to do education, we can't monitor every single post they come across.
Totally. And it's interesting you say that because like that's exactly how, so like on Moxies you have like 3 core features, and one of them is this chat functionality. And that's like literally exactly like the pain point that we've been like trying to solve with the chat is parents are like, no, I don't want my daughter on like X, Y, and Z platform, but I also don't want her to miss out on these key social moments. Oh, and I can't monitor that group chat. Like I like, even if I wanted to, I can't. Like I like it's, so it's this so much responsibility has been put on parents to figure it out. And big tech has like wiped their hands of it.
Yeah.
However, the latest, and I guess like by the time this episode comes out, like this was like the verdicts that happened like at the end of March.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a very like historical case, which was against Meta and YouTube, because
Yeah.
what that case did, it wasn't like the $150 million one that like it wasn't that one. It was like $3 million. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not the point of it. The point was the verdict of that case for the very first time held big tech platforms accountable for the design choices that they make and the
Mm-hmm.
negative harmful outcomes that they have on young people. And so it was very like it that was like huge. Because every other scenario they've been like, well, not our fault what people do and what happens and da 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 da
Mm-hmm.
da da. And this was the very first time that they were actually being held accountable for those design choices. And so
Mm-hmm.
because like it is not reasonable to put these very confusing, complicated design choices and hide all the controls real deep down that even for the most tech savvy parent can't find.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but by the way, those kids are just as tech savvy and they can figure out real quick how to turn them off.
Yep.
And so it's like that was a really big deal because like there is so much responsibility on parents and yes, parents should absolutely be involved, but it's an
Mm-hmm.
unfair burden because even the most well-intended parents still really, really struggle with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of parents, like obviously one challenge is
Hmm.
that parents can't feasibly monitor every single thing their child is doing on social media. I mean, it would be a full-time
Yeah.
job. Like
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
literally in South Carolina have phone bans. Like they're not supposed to have phones in schools.
Yeah.
Kids get away with it anyways. Like the screen time of some of the teens I work with
Yeah.
is like 10, 12 plus hours a day. And I'm like, you're in school for like
Hmm.
6 of those. Like, so I say that to
Yeah,
bring up like it's
totally.
impossible for
Yeah, yeah,
parents to monitor everything they do. Can you
yeah,
speak to other challenges that parents face when it comes to raising kids in the digital age?
yeah,
Whether that's, you know, just dealing with social media, parent-child dynamics when navigating
yeah,
the online world, any
yeah.
challenges that you've heard
Yeah,
from parents?
I mean, I think like a lot of it is like, monitoring, knowing what they're doing, making sure they're safe what they're doing.
Mhm.
I always say like your policy is only as strong as your child's friend's weakest policy. So like a
Ooh, I
lot
like
of it
that.
has to do with like, like you might have a certain policy at home, whether like if your child's like not allowed to use a certain app or use a certain device or whatever it is. But a lot of the times that goes out the window if they're at a friend's house, right? And
Mhm.
so that's another struggle for parents to really figure out how to navigate that conversation with their child, with other parents, like what that means, what that looks like, how you figure that out. And then, a lot of it is peer influence, right? Like
Yeah.
kids want things that their friends have. Or if your child is the oldest, but like their best friend is the youngest of three, right? Like those are
Yeah.
really different dynamics that are at place. And like it was always there was always that dynamic at place, right? Like if like,
Mhm.
oh, like that one's the youngest of four, or like whatever, like they're gonna like do things earlier, know things earlier, just like be there, like see it, whatever. But when you throw technology into that, it adds like this whole other dynamic. I was actually with some like moms before this and they were literally talking about like in third grade when like the girls break off and like these groups form and
Mhm.
this happens and then like the girls that formed here like they all have older siblings and they're allowed to have phones and they're allowed to have this and they're allowed to have that and it's just these like there's a lot of those just like dynamics that are at place and like the technology component is just like a whole nother factor.
Mhm.
I think gaming, anything like gaming is a big one too.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I always, when I talk to parents, they're like, oh, well, like, we've delayed phones. And I'm like, cool, great, love that. Like, does your child have any screen time? And they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, they have an iPad. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, so, like, they're like, yeah, but, like, she's not on Snap, she's not on TikTok, she doesn't have Instagram. I'm like, great. Like, what does
Mhm.
she do? And they'll be like, well, like, she plays Roblox and watches,
Roblox.
like, a ton of YouTube shorts. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like, at this point, let her on Instagram. Like,
Yeah.
and so I think, for me, like, YouTube Shorts and Roblox are kind of like Roblox is finally people are waking up and seeing it. And there's a lot of stuff that's coming out about it. But Roblox is not built for children. And it is
No.
that like true wolf in sheep's clothing. And I think when parents are thinking about navigating technology, like, to me, Roblox is the scariest because there's a lot of things that parents think, again, like the most well-intended parent, right? It's like, oh no, I'm not going to let her on TikTok, but like she wants
Yeah.
to play this game and she's creating and she's building these worlds and like whatever. I set up the parental controls. It's like, well, they actually don't really work.
Yeah.
But they don't really exist. And now they're like kind of existing a little more, but they still don't really. So those are things that I think like there's a lot of things, right?
Mhm.
But I think the kind of unfortunate deception that parents are consistently facing when they also think that they're making, like, they're trying to even be really thoughtful about their choices. And then they're just like, oh man, what?
Mhm.
That happened. Like,
Yeah.
shoot.
Yeah. No, and I think one thing too, just like you were talking about with Roblox, I can't tell you how many kids and teens I work with that play Roblox. And, yeah, the parents look and there's a little game. And then as more information comes out, you
Yeah,
realize how scary some of these platforms are. But
yeah,
also, just as more information comes out, platforms are always like changing and adding things. And like you said, there might be parental controls, but are they actually working? Or what you were saying earlier about, you know, you can turn and on and off all these things, and the parents are like, I got this. But the kids and teens know how to undo
yeah,
all of that. And, I I agree with what you said earlier about like tech is not going anywhere. We need to learn how to,
yeah,
live with it. And one of my personal fears is just like how fast growing
yeah,
tech is, because it's like, oh, we finally caught up. And now what? And I imagine for parents
yeah,
raising, especially these tweens, because that's the focus of our
yeah,
discussion, it's like, oh, I think I understand. Oh, but there's a new platform. She came home and said, Susie, I don't know why I keep using that name,
yeah,
downloaded this app and it's
yeah.
fun. And so you check it out and you're like, okay, this looks fine, but you don't actually know.
Totally, totally. And I think that's like the struggle, and it's hard, right? And I think for me, what I am hopeful of is like, there are now like kids safe designations. I think
Mhm.
they're not my favorite. Like I don't think that they're actually asking the right questions.
Mhm.
Um, and I can give you like an example. Like we were like resubmitting, like we were making some updates to the app. So like you have to resubmit it to the app store and like whatever. And they had just come out with the kids safe designations. And so basically had to click a toggle. And the two things that we had to like say yes or no to were, does your app like restrict content like that to make sure it's age appropriate?
Mhm.
And like is there a toggle for parents to choose like what content like their child can like watch or whatever, be like, or not watch, but like be part
Yeah.
of. And then the second was, can parents set time limits? And it was interesting because like we were going back and forth with like my engineers and I being like, well, technically no, because it's already built in from the beginning. Like there's
Yeah.
not a toggle because it's already by default that's
Mhm.
in there. So we submitted it and we had toggled it. It ended up getting rejected, and like we went back and forth and like it got approved. But it was one of those things that I was like, Apple, you're asking the wrong question. Like the
Yeah.
question should be like, is this safe by design? What are you doing inherently with the platform design to make this like, to make sure that these limits are already built in?
Yeah.
And so that to me is like what I am excited to start to see more of, is like moving
Mhm.
away from just this like kid safe designation to the safe by design designation. And like
Mhm.
that is where there are a lot of other companies that are starting to build in that space. There are people that are like, no, 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 we cannot continue to be in this attention economy. We have to think about a different way to build these apps and monetize these apps, because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. It all
Mhm.
comes down to the monetization. And to your point of like the algorithm feeding those explosive things, like it does that because it keeps you coming back and it keeps you
Yeah.
staying on and it keeps you going to the next thing. And so it's like we must move away from that, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to our children.
Mhm. Absolutely. So something you said earlier was about healthy habits and like
Yeah,
how you want to, with Moxies and just in, it seems like in general, build
mhm,
healthy habits
yeah,
with tweens on social media. So kind of navigating in that direction, how can technology and social media be used for positive growth and engagement rather than all the negativity and harm we've been talking about
Yeah,
already?
yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, again, it's such a great form of creative self-expression. Like,
Mhm.
it's like there can be again so many positive things, connecting with your friends, like being able to learn things or earn things or whatever it might be. And so that's really like what we've been balancing at Moxies is like we want this to be like a fun and joyful platform that girls want to come back to, but we're not trying to like increase their screen time. We don't want them
Mhm.
spending hours and hours and hours a day on Moxies. We
Yeah.
want them like, okay, let's say they have 2 hours of screen time a day or 1 hour a week or whatever it might be. Like, we want to be the majority of that. Like, we want to
Yeah.
figure out how we can make that screen time, whatever it is, more meaningful. And so, when we think about like building healthy habits and what types of positive outcomes can come from that, when we actually first launched, I as you like I kind of like alluded to, like I love research. I love like
Mhm.
doing like right like figuring out how we can do like research studies to learn more about like what we're doing and what's working and what's not working. And we had a team of PhD researchers to measure the efficacy of the platform. Like what does that
Yeah.
even mean when we say we are like trying to drive towards well-being? Like what does that look like? Are we like let's figure that out. And so in the study that we did, we found that 79% of our girls have positive well-being outcomes after playing on Moxies, which
Wow.
includes improvements in mood, confidence, and self-regulation. So three like huge things when we think about both from like a developmental perspective as well as like a digital perspective. And then there's all of like the qualitative feedback that we get from girls and parents too. And
Mhm.
we know in this group of like our very first users, we also know that like 50% of them have access to all of the platforms, and
Okay.
50% of them, Moxies is like their very first platform. And so
Okay.
my initial thought was like, oh, those girls who have access to everything and are like, oh, what is this app for babies? Like, I want no part of this. Um, but it's actually the opposite. Like we're finding that they're coming back and choosing Moxies because it makes them feel good. And it's actually a reflective experience of what they want. So like, for example, we worked with like a group of girls this past summer, and they were 8 and 9 year old girls, literally had access, all had their own phones and had access to everything. And when we told them on Moxies that that there were no public profiles and there was no way that like a stranger could find you or message you, they were like, what? I'm not going to have to block someone for sending me a weird message? And I was like they were truly like they didn't even think that that could exist. And
Oh my
like to
gosh.
me, I was like they would take me through their like through 5 steps of like how they block someone on Roblox and what happens and then what they do, like the whole thing. And to them, it was just like a relief that like they were
Yeah.
going to be able to just talk to their friends, create avatars, and play like polls and quizzes and earn fun things, and not have to be bombarded by messages that were unwanted. So like those are the types of things that like we're seeing and both like the
Mhm.
research that we're doing and the girls and families that we're talking to. And so when we think about like, okay, how can we build healthy habits, how can we drive towards well-being, it's like creating a platform that's actually built with the community, built with girls, built in tandem with parents, like hearing the things that they want, which they want to talk to their friends, they want to
Mhm.
create, and they want to earn things. Like those are like the three core things we hear over and over and over again. And there's so many different ways you can do that, of course, but that's what they want to do. And so how
Mhm.
can we take those things that we know they want to do, we know they're asking to do when they're asking for the first time to use an iPad or a phone or whatever it is, and how can we actually make it developmental and age appropriate for them, that it still feels really fun and cool and like all those things that they want, but it's giving them this autonomy but with safeguards.
I love so much of what you said there. Reflecting on the last piece that you were talking about, like, what do girls actually want in building a platform of that? All that was going through my mind is like, I don't think like Meta has ever done that. Like asked
Yeah.
people what they or they say they ask people what they want. And this is much more lighthearted, but like I can't even remember what the change was. But like
Yeah.
Meta will just implement changes to Instagram, like where the buttons are for things. And people
Oh,
are like, nobody asked for this. Like,
yeah. Yeah. You're like,
why?
why? We don't want
Why
it. We
is
don't want it. Switch it
this the
back.
change? But
Yeah.
honestly, even as you were talking, I was reflecting and I was like, social media has become such an integral part of my life for better or for
Yeah.
worse. But I'm like, what do I actually want out of social media? And I don't know. Like, I like seeing my friends
Yeah.
post things, but that's what
Yeah.
it was originally. A lot of platforms were originally intended for, and we've kind of gone away from that. But the
Mhm.
fact that you all like ask, what do girls 8 to 12 actually want? They want to talk to their friends. They like rewards. Like,
Yeah.
okay, let's, yeah, take what they want. And that makes sense that they're going to come back because they
Totally.
feel safe and it's giving them what they want in a healthy manner.
Totally. And they feel like heard too. They're
Mhm.
like, yeah, this is what I want. Like, oh, like you have like the outfit that like I wore to school today that I can make into my Moxie. Like, yeah, I want that. Right. And so it's like that's been a lot of the feedback too. Girls like, oh my God, like I have those pants. And I'm like, yeah, like we're trying to make it like to be another expressive form of yourself instead of
Yeah.
another thing on Moxies is girls cannot upload their own photos and videos. So instead,
Okay.
they're using their Moxies and like they're using their Moxies. So like they're using that as like a safe way for that creative self-expression. Not having the act like not having the real comparison component, not like
Mm.
bringing in all of those again like features that can come up like they start as harmless, but like because of the mechanisms of what we are now so conditioned to when it comes to social media, like they're not.
Yeah.
So it is like that fun, joyful piece that like they're coming back because it's fun and they want to be
Mhm.
on there. But no, we don't want them on there all day. Like
Mhm.
if we started seeing them on there all day, like that goes against our benchmark metric. So
Yeah.
actually, anytime we now launch a new feature, we benchmark it to the 79% well-being. So it needs to be 79% or above if like we're going to keep a feature.
Oh,
So
wow.
like because we want to make sure like we do not want to lose sight of what is our North Star, which is
Mhm.
well-being, and ensuring this like joyful, fun experience for these girls. But well-being is actually what's driving it because it makes them feel good.
Yeah. And when you were talking about that research, the
Yeah.
79% improved well-being, you mentioned one of the outcomes was confidence, which
Mm.
obviously is the opposite of what we were talking about earlier
Yeah.
with like the social comparison. So,
Yeah.
how can we foster more of that confidence, even like just emotional
Yeah.
support in this digital age among our tween girls?
Yeah, and honestly, I think a lot goes back to like the digital literacy stuff, right?
Mhm.
Like we do a ton of digital literacy like within the platform. We actually have a quest that's launching tomorrow that's a whole like new it's a whole new digital literacy challenge because May is digital literacy like awareness month or something like that, which like this is funny. We do this every day, but let's make it a May
Yeah.
thing too. Um, but like a lot of it is the like again, like to us, it can feel so obvious, but like
Mhm.
to these young people where this is their first experience. And to your point, like digital literacy is not something that is being taught in schools yet. I do think it will become like digital
Mhm.
literacy is just going to become another form of literacy that kids are going to have, but like we're not there yet. And
Yeah.
so it's like they don't know that not everything people post is real or their
Mhm.
real life or looks as like is all happy and sunny in this. Like they don't know that.
Yeah.
Some of them do, but like a lot of them don't. And like they don't know if like they see something to question it, to like figure
Mhm.
out if it's real or fake or where it came from or like why that was posted. So like a lot of like when we think about the confidence in digital spaces, a lot of it is tied to like the awareness about the space that you're in. Um,
Yeah,
and like,
absolutely.
okay, like how does that make you feel? Like, okay, like you are on Instagram and you see all your friends somewhere and you're not there. How does that make you feel? I'd
Mhm.
say like 90% of girls would be like, that doesn't make me feel good if I wasn't invited, right?
Yeah.
Like if they were really her friends, even if they weren't. But, it's like, okay, like that's then a moment to like actually have that conversation about the like why behind it.
Mhm.
And that's how I think we can really build confidence. So much of it, even with like building like these healthy habits and modeling, and having your child be able to like come to you and talk to you, like it's all about like this really early communication from the very beginning. And even like when you as a parent are making a decision of like, no, you can't have Snapchat, right? Like
Mhm.
not just saying no, you can't have Snapchat, explaining the why behind it.
Yeah.
Because like they might not. your child still might not like that answer, and that's totally fine. Like, you're the parent, like, that's your decision. But like giving them, and it's not that like you have to explain yourself, it's more having them understand why they can't have that and why
Mhm.
you are trying to keep your, your role as a parent, keeping them safe, and like what that means, and having that dialogue around it. So I think that's a lot of like where the confidence can come from.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. And you just shared something that I think is so important is that open communication between
Yeah.
parent and child. Because a lot of parents that are raising kids in this age are millennials or Gen
Yeah.
Xers. And, you know, we're on social media, we're familiar with social media. So
Yeah.
if there are parents listening to this and they have a tween girl, 8 to 12, what is one thing you would tell them that they could start doing today
Yeah.
to help their tweens cultivate a healthier relationship with the digital world?
Yeah. Let's say obviously like join Moxies, but second to that, I would say modeling.
Yeah.
Modeling I think is so key, and it's something that like we as parents know, and like we, I guess I feel in my oldest is 7,
Mhm.
and so it's like I always thought more of like modeling like with babies, like, oh, like they're gonna like copy you, or they're gonna see what you're doing and they're gonna want to do it. Like that's how I always initially like thought about modeling. And as I'm like, moving along my parenting journey and my children are getting older, modeling becomes so important as they're getting
Yeah.
older. If not like more important, because like they're actually starting to make their own decisions, and they are really looking at you as that role model. Like they want to do everything you do. So like if you are on your phone at dinner scrolling Instagram, of course they're going to want to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, and it's a hard thing, because there's so many things that we're just like, we don't, to your point, like again back to the tapping, like we don't even sometimes realize what we're doing.
Mhm.
um but I will even like stop myself sometimes, like if like I'm on the couch and like watching a movie with my kids or something, like I really actually try not to have my phone, because
Yeah.
I'm like, this
Same.
is now me modeling that I can't watch a movie and I have to be doing something else, which I will say is hard, right? Like I
Mhm.
am now used to like watching a movie or a TV show with my phone. And so it's like
Mhm.
it is a hard thing, but I don't want them watching a movie with a device. I don't want
No.
them watching a show and also doing something else. So I think there's so many different ways we could think about that, from the smallest of like not having your phone at dinner, or when you're talking to somebody, not looking at your phone, or like,
Mhm.
and then it can go to like, I talked to a parent the other day who's like, oh, we don't even allow, like, we don't want our children are not allowed to have any devices in their bedrooms, and we don't have devices in our bedrooms either. Like we charge our cell
Wow.
phones in the kitchen. And I was like, good for you. Like I am like,
Wow.
that is so impressive. So like
Yeah.
it's a spectrum for sure. But I think the awareness of modeling is really key. And that's again something you can do at the youngest ages.
Mhm.
And something that just even being aware of it becomes like a helpful tool.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so much of what you said I can relate to. I also, if we have like family movie night, put my phone in a different room because I found myself, I was like scrolling,
Yeah.
playing games, doing whatever,
Yeah.
rather than being present with the movie. And like, I'm like,
Yeah.
back before I had a cell phone, when
Yeah.
I did family movie night growing up, I obviously wasn't on a cell phone.
Yeah.
My
No,
parents
you're
and my
sitting
sister and
there.
I were sitting there eating
Yeah.
popcorn, watching a
Yes.
movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's what
so
you
we
were
have
doing. Yeah.
the
That's like all
ability to
you,
do
that's like
it.
literally what we were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
know.
but
Um,
I know it, but it goes back
yeah.
to everything you've been saying, like how these platforms are addictive. I mean, phones, because everything is on our phones. Like we're just,
Yeah.
many of us
Yeah.
are addicted to technology, whether we want to admit
Totally.
it or not. And it's hard not to be in many ways
Yeah.
because so much of our life, I mean, Chromebooks in schools. I don't know if your
Yeah.
kids have that. I mean, so much of work is
Yeah.
online or
Our
requires
lives are
screen.
more digital. It's like
Yeah.
just the world we live in. Like we're on a Zoom right now doing
Yep.
this, right? Like the world is just like there's a digital component to it. So it's like you cannot like it, and that's fine. I don't not like it. It's not like I love it either, but it's like, how do we best set our children up for success in navigating it? And we have to be able to give them the tools and build those healthy relationships with it early. And I would say, like, whatever you're doing as a parent, like, whatever if you're like, nope, my kid can have any device and they can be on anything, or nope, no phone till college, like, wherever you stand, like, I think the biggest thing is just thinking about what you are doing to help your child thrive with digital and technology, knowing that that is only going to increasingly be a part of our world in life.
Absolutely. Well, Juliette, I have loved talking to you. I can think of so many more questions I want to ask you. I also want to be mindful of your time. So as we're wrapping up, is there anything I haven't asked you about that you would like to touch on or revisit before we do the final wrap up and I ask where people can connect with you and all that fun stuff?
No, I don't think so. I feel like we chatted about a lot. So I feel good with the questions we covered.
Okay. So that leads me to my last question is, where can people connect with you and where can people learn more about Moxies?
Yeah, you can always find me on LinkedIn or on Instagram. My name's Juliette Blake. You can always send me a message. And then to learn more about Moxies, you can go to joinmoxies.com. You can also follow us on Instagram too, which is Moxies X at the end. And you can download Moxies in the App Store. Right now it's available on all iOS. So we'll be coming out with Android later and web-based version also. But right now, iPads, iPhones is what Moxies is on, and we'd love to have you join us. And I'm always here to answer any questions. I love connecting with parents, and love continuing to learn from the families that are using Moxies of how we can continue to build and serve both girls as well as their parents too, because that's a really important part of the equation. And how can we continue to provide peace of mind for you as a parent and kind of work to decreasing that mental load that we all have so much of. So.
Yeah. Awesome. And I will put links to all of that in the show notes. But once again, Juliette, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing all about Moxies. Thank you for just engaging in this discussion. I really enjoyed it. And I think it's such an important discussion to have. So I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be here with me.
Yeah, no, you too. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And thank you, the listeners, for joining for today's episode of Psych Talk. And I will catch you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Psych Talk. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the show. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend. Don't forget to follow me on all socials at Jessica Lee, PhD, and the podcast at Psych.Talk.Podcast on Instagram.